The air in my ceramic studio, hearth and glaze, was thick with the earthy scent of wet clay and the faint tang of glaze as I shaped a wide-mouthed vase on the pottery wheel, its curves emerging under my steady hands. Located in the vibrant arts district of Austin, Texas, the 200-square-foot space was my sanctuary, a dream I'd fought for since my early 20s. My name is Tessa Ramsey, 38, single, and, for the past 7 months, the sole owner of this studio, a testament to nearly 2 decades of relentless hustle. I'd spent my 20s and 30s as a freelance ceramicist, teaching evening classes at community centers, hauling my work to weekend craft fairs across Texas, and taking on custom orders for boutique hotels and local galleries to save every dime. My ambition wasn't just a steady paycheck, it was this studio, a place to craft hand-thrown pottery, mentor aspiring artists, and build a creative community that felt like family. When my great-uncle Leonard passed away 8 years ago, he left me an inheritance of $550 and a windfall that changed my trajectory. Though it wasn't enough to cover the studio's purchase, renovations, high-end kilns, and initial inventory without my own savings, I'd lived with brutal frugality, renting a cramped studio apartment in East Austin with a temperamental heater that rattled through winter nights. I skipped concerts, weekend getaways, and even small indulgences like coffee shop lattes, opting instead for instant coffee and thrift store sweaters while my friends posted Instagram reels from Tokyo, Santorini, and Reykjavik. Every extra dollar went into my dream fund, tracked in a dog-eared notebook I kept locked in my desk drawer, its pages filled with columns of income, expenses, and motivational scribbles like "Keep going. Tessa, this is your legacy." With Leonard's bequest and my savings earned through years of 80-hour work weeks and saying no to every luxury, I bought hearth and glaze outright, free of loans or debts. The studio was a rustic masterpiece, its exposed brick walls glowing under skylights, its wide oak floors scuffed from decades of use in what was once a textile warehouse. The workshop housed 4 pottery wheels, a long workbench cluttered with tools, and 2 electric kilns humming in the corner. The front gallery, my pride and joy, featured polished wooden shelves displaying my vases, mugs, and sculptural pieces alongside work from local artists I'd invited to showcase. A cozy corner with mismatched armchairs and a coffee table served as a lounge for workshops, where students could sip tea and chat about their projects. I'd hand-painted a chalkboard wall near the entrance, already covered in doodles from early visitors' swirls, stars, and playful messages like "Clay is my therapy." I was deep into preparations for a spring showcase, just 10 weeks away, glazing a series of turquoise and ochre bowls inspired by the Texas Hill Country, finalizing a guest artist lineup, and designing flyers for local cafes. The showcase was my chance to put hearth and glaze on the map, to prove that every sacrifice had been worth it. As I cleaned my tools, my phone buzzed on the workbench, snapping me out of my focus. It was a text from my mom, her words popping up in a bubble that made my stomach twist. "Tessa, we're having a family meeting this Sunday at 2 p.m. at the house. Bring those rosemary scones you make, they're always a hit. Big announcement. Don't miss it." Her tone was overly chipper, a warning sign honed by years of decoding her messages. Mom wasn't the type to call a family meeting for something trivial, and the forced cheer felt like a prelude to trouble. I typed back, "What's going on? Can you give me a hint?" Her reply came seconds later, vague and infuriating. "It's a surprise. Sweetie, just be there." I set the phone down, my fingers smudged with clay, and stared at the half-finished vase on the wheel. A familiar unease crept in, the kind that always surfaced when my family was involved. My younger brother, Owen, 33, had been the family's golden child since we were kids, gliding through life with a disarming smile and a knack for landing on his feet. While I was grinding through art school on scholarships, working nights as a waitress to cover rent, Owen was exploring his potential, hopping between music gigs, half-baked startup ideas, and extended backpacking trips across South America, all funded by our parents' seemingly endless generosity. When I got a used pottery wheel for my 20th birthday, a clunky model I'd spent months restoring, Owen got a brand new electric guitar and amplifier for his, complete with a custom case. When I needed a new laptop for design classes, I was told to make do with my sluggish desktop. Owen got a top-of-the-line MacBook for his music production. Our parents' refrain was always the same. Owen needs more support. He's got big dreams. You're so responsible. Tessa, you'll figure it out. The favoritism stung, but I'd learned to bury the hurt, channeling it into my work. I'd built Hearth and Glaze without their help, without anyone's help, and the studio was proof that I didn't need their approval to succeed. Still, Mom's text gnawed at me, a reminder that family gatherings rarely ended well for me. I tried to shake it off, returning to my vase, but the clay felt heavier under my hands, as if it sensed the storm brewing. The week slipped by in a whirlwind of tasks. I fired a batch of mugs, each stamped with a tiny cactus motif, and met with a local cafe owner who wanted to carry my work as part of their decor. I designed posters for the showcase, hand lettering each one with a flourish, and emailed potential sponsors. My fingers crossed for a grant to fund a youth pottery program. The studio was coming alive, shelves brimming with finished pieces, a new glaze station organized with jars of cobalt, copper, and iron oxide, and a schedule board listing upcoming classes. I spent late nights sketching ideas for the showcase, envisioning a display that would blend my work with that of 3 guest artists, each bringing their own flair to the gallery. The thought of opening night friends, neighbors, and strangers admiring my creations kept me going through the exhaustion. By Sunday morning, I was bleary-eyed but determined. I baked a batch of rosemary scones, their savory aroma filling my tiny apartment as I packed them into a woven basket, a gift from a former student. The recipe was my own, perfected over years of trial and error, and the scones had become a small legend among my friends, golden and fragrant with just the right crumble. As I drove to my parents' house, a gracious Victorian home my great-uncle Leonard had willed equally to Owen and me, I couldn't shake the dread pooling in my chest. The house was a family cornerstone, its wraparound porch and stained glass windows steeped in memories of childhood summers spent reading in the attic, winters stringing popcorn for the Christmas tree, and late-night talks with Leonard about art and ambition. He'd been my biggest cheerleader, slipping me $20 bills for supplies when my parents said no. And his death had left a void I still felt. Owen and I had agreed to let our parents live there rent-free after his passing, a gesture of goodwill that felt right at the time. Though now, with Mom's cryptic text, I wondered if I'd overlooked something crucial. I pulled into the driveway and froze. The space was a parking lot, Aunt Sylvia's red sedan, Uncle Carl's battered pickup, my cousin Mara's electric bike propped against a tree, my cousin Julian's vintage convertible parked at a reckless angle, and even my great-aunt Ruth's ancient station wagon, a relic I hadn't seen in years. This wasn't a family meeting, it was a full-scale convention. And the realization hit me like a cold wave. Whatever was coming, it was big, and I was walking into it blind. I grabbed the scone basket, my heart pounding like a drum, and stepped out of the car, bracing myself for the storm I knew was waiting inside. As I stepped through the front door of my parents' Victorian home, the familiar creak of the oak floorboards did little to ease the knot in my stomach. The air was warm with the scent of roasted chicken and fresh cornbread, but the buzz of voices from the living room carried an undercurrent of tension that made my skin prickle. "Tessa's here," Mom called, her voice bright but laced with a rehearsed warmth that set my nerves on edge. She swooped in for a hug, her floral perfume overwhelming, and snatched the scone basket from my hands with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "These smell divine. Sweetheart, come on. Everyone's waiting." The living room was a sea of relatives, their chatter a low hum that paused as I entered. My brother Owen lounged on the velvet sofa, his fiancée, Lila, perched beside him, both engrossed in a video on her phone, their laughter jarring against the room's unease. Dad stood by the fireplace, deep in conversation with Uncle Carl, his gestures animated as he waved a glass of bourbon. Aunt Sylvia and my cousin Mara were arranging a buffet on a mahogany sideboard, platters of herb-crusted chicken, garlic mashed potatoes, sautéed green beans, and a towering peach cobbler that looked like it had taken hours to perfect. My cousin Julian, always a bit of an outsider with his leather jacket and sardonic grin, leaned against the wall, sipping a beer. Great-aunt Ruth, who rarely left her retirement community, sat in an armchair, her sharp eyes scanning the room like a hawk. The sheer number of people, nearly 24, More than I'd seen at any family gathering since Leonard's funeral confirmed my worst fears. This was no casual get-together. I caught Owen's eye as I set my purse down. "What's going on?" I asked, keeping my voice low. He flashed a grin, all charm and no substance. "Big news. Tess, you'll flip." His vagueness made my stomach twist, but before I could press, Mom clapped her hands, her rings glinting under the chandelier. "Everyone, let's move to the dining room. Food's ready." We filed into the grand dining room, its long walnut table set with Mom's heirloom china, the kind reserved for Christmas and major announcements. I slid into a seat between Mara and Julian, both of whom seemed as out of the loop as I was. "Any idea what this is?" I whispered to Mara, who was piling mashed potatoes onto her plate. She shook her head, her braid swinging. "Nope. Your mom just said it's a family milestone." "Sounds intense." Julian, on my other side, snorted softly but offered no insight, his focus on his phone. We filled our plates, the small talk tiptoeing around safe topics: Austin's booming art scene, Mara's new job at a tech startup, Julian's latest motorcycle restoration. The scones I'd brought sat untouched in their basket, a silent reminder of my contribution to this uneasy gathering. The room buzzed with anticipation, but no one met my gaze, and the weight of their avoidance pressed against my chest. I picked at my chicken, my appetite gone, as I braced for whatever was coming. Finally, Mom stood, tapping her wine glass with a silver fork, the chime cutting through the chatter. "Thank you all for coming," she said, her smile radiant but practiced, like a politician addressing a crowd. "We have some truly wonderful news to share." She gestured to Owen, who stood, pulling Lila up with him. His grin was wide, almost smug. "Lila and I are expecting," he announced, his voice booming with pride, "and we're getting married next spring." The room erupted in cheers, aunts and cousins clapping, Uncle Carl letting out a loud whistle. I forced a smile, clapping along, a flicker of genuine happiness for them breaking through my unease. "Congrats, Owen," I said, catching his eye across the table. He nodded, but his gaze slid away, and Lila's quick smile felt more like a formality than warmth. "That's not all," Mom said, her voice taking on a calculated sweetness that made my heart lurch. The room hushed, all eyes on her. "As you know, Tessa recently opened her little pottery studio." She waved a hand in my direction, and a few relatives murmured polite congratulations, though only Mara had bothered to visit Hearth and Glaze. Tessa's 38, single, no kids, no partner. Her studio is her whole world, and we're so proud of her dedication. I shifted in my seat, my face flushing as her words hung in the air, framing my life as somehow incomplete. Why was she putting me on display like this? "But Owen," she continued, her tone sharpening, "is about to start a family. He and Lila need stability, a real foundation, not their cramped rental in South Austin." My pulse quickened as I saw Owen glance at Lila, who stared at her plate, her cheeks pink. "Tessa, we think it would be a beautiful, generous act if you gave your studio to Owen and Lila." The room went silent, the clink of silverware stopping as if someone had hit pause. I stared at Mom, my fork frozen midair, waiting for her to laugh, to say it was a joke. But her eyes were locked on mine, unyielding. "You're not serious," I said, my voice barely above a whisper, trembling with disbelief. "Completely serious," Mom replied, her smile tightening. "You could lease another space for your pottery. You don't need that specific property. Owen and Lila could turn it into a family business, a cafe, perhaps something stable for their child." I scanned the table, my breath shallow. Dad nodded solemnly, as if this were the most logical request in the world. Owen's expression was neutral, but Lila's face was flushed with embarrassment, her hands twisting in her lap. Aunt Sylvia piped up. "It's a selfless idea. Tessa, family comes first." "Selfless." I laughed, the sound sharp and brittle, echoing in the silent room. "You want me to give away my studio? The one I saved for 18 years, worked 100-hour weeks for, used Uncle Leonard's inheritance to buy, the one I built from nothing, without a single dollar from any of you, because Owen's having a baby." "Tessa, don't be selfish," Dad said, his voice low and admonishing. "Your brother needs this more than you do." "Selfish." I stood, my chair scraping the floor, my hands shaking with fury. I lived in a freezing basement, skipped every vacation, every new pair of shoes. To afford that studio, I worked until my hands bled. And no one, not you, not Owen, not anyone lifted a finger to help. And now you want me to hand it over. Owen leaned forward, his voice calm but cutting. Tess, it's not just about you. We're talking about a kid here, a family. You've got your whole life to start another studio, then start your own business. I snapped, my voice rising. Work for it, save for it, like I did. Why is it always me who has to give everything up? The tension snapped like a taut wire. Mom grabbed the scone basket from the table and hurled it at me with a force that stunned the room. The basket hit my chest, rosemary scones flying, crumbs and butter smearing my blouse and hair. A chunk of scone stuck to my cheek, the savory scent now sickening. The room froze. I wiped the butter from my face, my hands trembling with rage and humiliation. Owen and Lila looked away, but Dad's expression was smug, as if I'd deserved this. Aunt Sylvia whispered to Uncle Carl. She's always been so stubborn. Mara's eyes widened in shock, and Julian's jaw clenched, his beer bottle gripped tightly. Without a word, I grabbed my purse and keys, my vision blurring with tears I refused to let fall, and stormed out. Mom's voice chased me. Ungrateful child. You're tearing this family apart. Owen's shout followed. You'll regret this. Tessa. I stumbled to my car, hands shaking so badly I could barely unlock the door. Scone crumbs clung to my clothes, a humiliating reminder of the betrayal. I drove away, the Victorian's lights fading in my rearview mirror, my heart pounding with a mix of fury and resolve. Back in the sanctuary of my loft above hearth and glaze, I collapsed onto the worn leather couch, still in my scone-crusted blouse, the rosemary scent now a bitter reminder of the evening's betrayal. The studio below was silent, its kilns cooled, but the weight of the family meeting pressed against my chest like a stone. My hands trembled as I brushed crumbs from my hair, the humiliation replaying in my mind, Mom's calculated demand, Dad's smug nod, Owen's dismissive words, and the scone basket hitting me with a force that echoed years of being pushed aside. I wanted to scream, to throw something, but instead, I curled into the couch, letting the storm of emotions crash over me. My phone, set on the coffee table, buzzed incessantly, its screen lighting up with a barrage of texts and voicemails. I ignored it at first, but curiosity or masochism got the better of me. I grabbed it, scrolling through the messages. Mom, Tessa, you're overreacting. Just give Owen the studio. Think of the baby. Dad, this is about family. Stop being so stubborn. Owen, you're making this harder than it needs to be. Do the right thing. Even Lila, who'd barely spoken at the meeting, had texted, Please, Tessa, we need this. You don't understand what it's like. The words blurred as my eyes stung, not with tears, but with a fury I hadn't felt in years. After everything, years of sacrifice, of building hearth and glaze with my own hands, they thought they could guilt me into giving it all away. I tossed the phone onto a cushion and paced the loft, its exposed beams and mismatched furniture a reflection of my hard-won independence. The space was small but mine, decorated with thrift store finds and pottery rejects, cracked vases, and uneven mugs I couldn't bear to throw away. As I paced, memories flooded back, each one a shard of glass in my chest. When Owen wanted to join a band in high school, my parents bought him a $2 500 guitar. My pottery classes were too expensive, so I paid for them with babysitting money. When we both graduated, Owen's high school party was a backyard extravaganza with a live DJ and catered tacos. My art school graduation got a homemade cake and a pat on the back. On my 16th birthday, I got a used sketchbook with half the pages torn out. Owen got a week-long music camp in Nashville for his. The pattern was clear. Owen was the dreamer, the one worth investing in. I was the workhorse, expected to fend for myself. The unfairness had always simmered beneath the surface, but I'd buried it, telling myself it didn't matter, that I was stronger for it. Hearth and Glaze was proof of that strength. Every brick, every shelf, every kiln bought with my sweat and savings. No one had handed me anything, not like they'd handed Owen everything, and now they wanted to take it away, to hand my legacy to him because he'd knocked up his fiancée. The audacity burned. Then, a thought struck me. sharp and cold. The house, Great Uncle Leonard's will, had been explicit. Owen and I each owned 50% of the Victorian. Our parents lived there by our generosity, not by legal right. I stopped pacing, my breath steadying as a plan took shape. Selling my share could force them to confront the consequences of their actions, to see that I wasn't the doormat they'd always assumed. But the idea carried a pang of guilt. The house wasn't just a building. It was a repository of memories, Leonard teaching me to carve pumpkins on the porch, holiday dinners with his booming laugh filling the room. Was I ready to dismantle that? I shook off the doubt and dug through a filing cabinet in the corner, its drawers stuffed with receipts, contracts, and old sketches. Tucked in a manila folder was Leonard's will, its pages yellowed but legible. I scanned the text, my heart racing as I confirmed the terms. The property at 1427 Willow Street is bequeathed equally to Tessa Ramsey and Owen Ramsey, to be held as tenants in common. No ambiguity, no loopholes. Our parents had no claim. I could sell my share, and Owen would have to buy me out or agree to sell the house entirely. The realization was both empowering and terrifying. By morning, my resolve had hardened. I called a real estate attorney, Elena Vasquez, recommended by a friend who'd navigated a messy divorce. Her assistant slotted me in for an appointment that afternoon. As I waited, my phone pinged with a new notification, a public Facebook post from Mom, tagging me. It breaks my heart to share this, but my daughter Tessa has chosen selfishness over family. She refused to help her pregnant brother Owen, prioritizing her pottery studio over their future. As a mother, I'm devastated. Please pray for Tessa to find compassion. The comments were a gut punch. What a horrible sister! Owen deserves better. Keeping a studio over a baby? Disgusting. Not one mentioned the scones Mom had thrown or the years I'd spent building my dream. Mom was liking every cruel comment, orchestrating a public shaming campaign that felt like a second betrayal. My hands shook as I screenshot the post, forwarding it to Elena's email with a note. This is what I'm dealing with. Something inside me snapped. Not into despair, but into clarity. I met with Elena, a sharp-eyed lawyer with a no-nonsense demeanor. In her sleek downtown office, she reviewed the will, her pen tapping the desk. You have every right to sell your share, she said. Your parents have no legal claim. We can send a notice to your brother, giving him the option to buy you out at market value or sell the property entirely. I hesitated, the weight of the decision pressing down. What if they can't afford it? Then the house is sold, and proceeds are split, Elena replied. You're not obligated to maintain their lifestyle. This is your asset. Tessa. I took a deep breath, the image of Mom's smug smile and Owen's entitled grin flashing in my mind. Do it, I said, my voice steady. The days following the family meeting blurred into a frenzy of activity at Hearth and Glaze, as if throwing myself into work could erase the sting of betrayal. I spent mornings glazing bowls, afternoons teaching a beginner's pottery class, and evenings designing a centerpiece for the spring showcase, a towering sculptural vase inspired by Austin's live oaks. The studio was my refuge, its brick walls and humming kilns a shield against the chaos of my family. But the wound from Mom's scone-throwing outburst and her public Facebook shaming festered, and every buzz of my phone felt like a fresh cut. I'd blocked Mom, Dad, Owen, and Lila's numbers, but the silence was heavy, broken only by occasional notifications from distant relatives piling onto Mom's post with comments like, disgraceful and how could you? Tessa. A week after the meeting, an unexpected visitor broke the routine. My cousin Mara, 30, a tech startup marketer with a quiet intensity, appeared at the studio's door, holding a paper bag from my favorite taco truck. Her braid was tucked under a baseball cap, and her eyes carried a mix of hesitation and resolve. Tessa. Got a minute? She asked, her voice soft but firm. I paused, wiping clay from my hands, wary of another family ambush. Sure. Mara. Come in. She stepped inside, setting the bag on a workbench cluttered with glaze jars. I brought tacos al pastor, your favorite. I need to talk about what happened at the meeting. She took a deep breath, her hands fidgeting. It was awful. Owen's been scheming for months. He told Aunt Sylvia he knew you'd never give up the studio, so they planned to guilt you into it or make you the villain if you refused. I was there, and I should have spoken up. I'm sorry. Her words hit like a jolt of electricity. I stared. The taco bag forgotten. You're serious? They planned this. Mara nodded, her eyes fierce. It's not right. Tessa, I've seen how they treat you, always putting Owen first, acting like your work doesn't matter. You built this place from nothing, and they want to steal it. I want to help. Can I promote your showcase at my company? We've got a newsletter and a big social media following. It could bring in a ton of people. Her offer was a lifeline, a spark of warmth in the cold aftermath of the meeting. I swallowed hard, my throat tight. Mara, that'd be incredible. Thank you. We sat on the workshop's armchairs, munching tacos as we brainstormed. Mara suggested a pottery and pixels event, pairing my showcase with a tech art mixer, and I gave her a tour of the gallery, promising her a custom mug as a thank you. Her support felt like a crack in the family's united front, a reminder that I wasn't entirely alone. 3 days later, another surprise arrived. My cousin Julian, 34, the family's black sheep with his leather jackets and motorcycle obsession, he showed up at the studio with a thermos of coffee and a sheepish grin, his boots scuffing the oak floor. Yo, Tess, I messed up, he said, handing me the thermos. I should have called out that scone-throwing nonsense at the meeting. It was unhinged. Mom's been trashing you to everyone, but I'm not buying it. Want me to hype your studio on my bike cruise socials? We've got a decent following, lots of artsy types. I laughed. The sound raw but genuine. My first real laugh since the meeting. Julian, you're full of surprises. Yes, please. We leaned against the workbench, sipping coffee as he scrolled through his phone, showing me his group's Instagram gritty photos of bikes and Austin's art scene. He'd always been distant, more likely to skip family events than attend, but his anger at Mom's stunt mirrored mine. I showed him the sculptural vase I was working on, and he nodded, impressed. This is dope. Tess, you're killing it. Mara and Julian's support bolstered my resolve, but the family's aggression didn't stop. One rainy evening, my doorbell rang, jarring me from a late-night glazing session. Through the peephole, I saw Mom, Dad, Owen, and Lila, their faces grim, holding a thick envelope. Tessa, open this door, Dad bellowed, pounding the frame. We got your lawyer's letter about the house. This is madness. I froze, my heart racing, but I didn't open the door. Instead, I pulled out my phone and hit record, capturing their tirade. Mom called me selfish and a family wrecker. Owen shouted, "You're ruining my kid's future." Lila, usually quiet, screamed, "You're heartless." Tessa. They raged for 45 minutes, their voices echoing in the stairwell, until a neighbor yelled at them to leave. Before they did, Owen shoved the envelope under the door. Inside was a handwritten letter, scrawled in Mom's looping cursive. "You're destroying this family. Give us the studio, and we'll forgive you. Stop this house sale nonsense, or you'll regret it." I sent the recording and letter to Elena, my attorney, who was furious. "This is harassment. Plain and simple," she said over the phone. "We can file for a restraining order if this continues, but it strengthens our case. They're showing their desperation." Her words were a cold comfort, but they fueled my determination. Mara's event idea, Julian's social media push, and Elena's legal strategy were my armor. I wasn't just fighting for Hearth and Glaze, I was fighting for myself. For the years I'd been invisible to my family. There was no turning back. The studio's kilns hummed softly as I worked late into the night, shaping clay into a series of mugs for the spring showcase, each one etched with delicate fern patterns. Hearth and Glaze was my anchor, its familiar rhythm spin of the wheel, scrape of the trimming tool grounding me against the chaos of my family's betrayal. Mara's promise to promote the showcase and Julian's offer to hype it on social media had given me a flicker of hope, but the memory of Mom's scone-throwing outburst, Owen's entitled demands, and their doorstep tirade kept me on edge. The letter they'd shoved under my door, with its veiled threat to regret my actions, sat on my desk like a ticking bomb, a constant reminder of their audacity. I'd sent it to Elena, my attorney, along with the recording of their harassment. But the waiting game was wearing me thin. 10 days after the doorstep incident, a bombshell landed that shook me to my core. Mara called late one evening, her voice hushed and urgent, as if she were afraid of being overheard. "Tessa, "You need to hear this," she said, the words tumbling out. I was at Aunt Sylvia's for dinner, and I overheard her talking to Uncle Carl in the kitchen. They were whispering about Uncle Leonard's will. There's something they've been hiding. There's a second property, a rental condo in downtown Austin, that was supposed to be split between you and Owen. Your parents never told you. They've been collecting rent for years, pocketing it all. I gripped the phone, my heart pounding as the room seemed to tilt. A condo. Mara, are you sure? How did I not know about this? They didn't want you to, Mara said, her voice tight with anger. Sylvia said Owen knew about it. Your parents have been funneling the rent money to him for his projects. They kept you in the dark because they figured you'd demand your share. I'm so sorry. Tessa, I'm trying to get proof Sylvia's got some old paperwork at her place. I'll dig through it when she's not around. Her words ignited a fire in me, a mix of betrayal and vindication that burned hotter than any kiln. My parents hadn't just favored Owen, they'd actively stolen from me, hiding an asset that was rightfully half mine. I thanked Mara, my voice shaking, and promised to keep her updated. After hanging up, I paced the loft, my mind racing. A condo in downtown Austin could be worth a fortune, and years of rent meant thousands, maybe tens of thousands, owed to me. The audacity of their secrecy, layered on top of their demand for my studio, was a betrayal so deep it felt like a physical wound. The next morning, I called Elena and relayed Mara's revelation, my voice steady despite the fury bubbling inside. If this is true, it changes everything, I said, clutching Leonard's will, its pages now a lifeline. Elena's response was immediate and resolute. We'll investigate, she said. I'll pull property records and cross-reference the will. If there's a condo, we'll find it. And you're entitled to half its value or proceeds from a sale, plus any back rent. This could significantly strengthen your position. Elena's team moved fast. Within 48 hours, she called with confirmation that sent my heart soaring and sinking at once. Leonard's will indeed included a downtown Austin condo, valued at $300,000, explicitly bequeathed to Owen and me as co-owners. Property records showed my parents had been managing it since Leonard's death, leasing it to a tech executive for $3,000 a month for the past 7 years. None of that money over $252,000 in total had ever reached me. Elena's voice was grim as she laid out the numbers. Your parents and Owen have been profiting off your inheritance. Tessa, we'll amend the notice to include the condo, demanding your half of the sale proceeds and back rent. This is fraud. Plain and simple. I sat on the loft's couch, staring at a cracked mug I'd kept as a reminder of my early failures, and felt a strange calm settle over me. The condo wasn't just about money, it was proof of how far my family would go to erase me, to treat me as less than Owen. I gave Elena the green light to pursue both properties, my voice firm. Go after it all, I said. They don't get to hide this from me anymore. The fallout was swift. Elena sent a formal notice to Owen and my parents, detailing the condo's inclusion in the will and demanding an accounting of the rent. Within hours, my phone lit up with voicemails from unblocked relatives, Aunt Sylvia, Uncle Carl, even Great Aunt Ruth accusing me of dragging the family through the mud and making trouble for poor Owen. A new Instagram post from Mom popped up, this one untagged but clearly aimed at me. Some people choose greed over love, breaking their family for personal gain. We pray they find their way. The comments were vicious, with strangers and cousins alike piling on. I screenshot it, sent it to Elena, and turned off my phone, my resolve hardening like fired clay. Mara texted later that night, promising to sneak photos of Sylvia's paperwork, and Julian sent a link to a supportive post on his bike cruise Instagram, calling out family drama and hyping Hearth and Glaze. Their loyalty was a lifeline, but the family's escalating attacks only fueled my determination. This wasn't just about the studio or the house anymore, it was about reclaiming what was mine, no matter the cost. The mediation took place in Elena Vasquez's sleek Austin office, a glass-walled conference room that felt more like a battlefield than a neutral ground. I arrived early, dressed in a tailored navy blazer and slacks, my nerves steeled despite the sleepless night spent replaying every betrayal Mom's scone-throwing outburst, Owen's entitled demands, the hidden condo, and their relentless harassment. The spring showcase was 3 weeks away, and Hearth and Glaze was thriving. But today wasn't about pottery. It was about reclaiming what was mine. Elena sat beside me, her laptop open to a dossier of evidence. Leonard's will, the harassment recording, Mom's social media posts, Mara's sworn statement about Owen's scheme, Julian's screenshots of family group chats, and property records for the Victorian house and the downtown condo. Across the table sat my parents, Owen, and Lila, their faces a mix of defiance and unease. Their lawyer, a wiry man named Victor Klein, shuffled papers nervously, his glasses slipping down his nose. Owen's jaw was set, his eyes avoiding mine, while Lila clutched his hand, her knuckles white. Mom's makeup was impeccable, but her tight smile betrayed her nerves, and Dad's face was flushed, his fists clenched on the table. The air crackled with tension as Elena opened the session, her voice calm but razor-sharp. We're here to resolve the disposition of 2 properties co-owned by Tessa and Owen Ramsey, the house at 1427 Willow Street and the condo at 301 Congress Avenue. Tessa seeks to sell her share of both, along with her portion of back rent from the condo, which was concealed from her for 7 years. Victor cleared his throat, his voice unsteady. Selling these properties would cause irreparable harm to the Ramsey family. The house is their home, and the condo's income supports Owen's growing family. We propose Tessa relinquish her claim to both in exchange for a nominal settlement, say, $50,000. I laughed, the sound harsh in the sterile room. Nominal. You hid $252,000 in rent from me. And you want my studio, my house, and my condo for a pittance. That's not a settlement, it's theft. Elena placed a hand on my arm, her eyes never leaving Victor. My client is entitled to half the market value of both properties and $126,000 in back rent. The condo's concealment constitutes fraud, and we have evidence of harassment, including a physical assault and public defamation, which could justify further legal action. The room erupted. Mom leaned forward, her voice trembling with rehearsed emotion. Tessa, we're sorry about the Scones. I was upset. But please, don't take our home. We've lived there for decades. Think of Owen's baby. Her tears started, right on cue, but they left me cold. Owen slammed a hand on the table. You're no sister of mine. Tessa, dragging us through this over a stupid studio. You're heartless. Lila, her voice small but pointed, added, that baby deserves a stable life. You're stealing that from us. Dad's voice was a low growl. You've always been selfish. Tessa, Leonard would be ashamed. Their words were meant to wound, but they only sharpened my resolve. I leaned forward, my voice steady, each syllable deliberate. You've shown me what family means to you, lying, manipulating, throwing scones, hiding my inheritance. You don't get to guilt me anymore. The house and condo will be sold. I'm done being your doormat. Victor tried to interject, stammering about family unity, but Elena cut him off, sliding a folder across the table. This includes the harassment recording, social media posts, and rental records showing Owen's complicity in concealing the condo. If we proceed to court, we'll pursue punitive damages. I suggest you consider our terms. The room fell silent, the weight of the evidence palpable. Mom's tears stopped abruptly, her face hardening. Owen's bravado faltered, his eyes darting to Lila, who looked like she might cry. Dad's fists unclenched, his shoulders slumping. Victor whispered to them, his gestures frantic. And after a tense huddle, they requested a private conference. Elena and I stepped into the hallway, where she gave me a nod. They're rattled. We've got them. After 30 minutes, they returned, Victor's face pale. My clients agree to sell both properties, with proceeds split 50-50 between Tessa and Owen. The back rent $126, and will be divided equally, with Tessa's share deposited within 30 days. I exhaled, a wave of relief tinged with grief washing over me. Elena reviewed the terms, her pen marking adjustments, and both sides signed the agreement. Mom collapsed into sobs. Dad's face turned crimson with suppressed rage, and Owen stormed out, Lila trailing behind, her head bowed. As we left the room, Elena murmured, "You did it? Tessa, they underestimated you." I nodded. But the victory felt hollow. The family I'd once loved was gone, their true colors laid bare. Yet, as I drove back to Hearth and Glaze, the studio's warm lights glowing in the dusk, I felt a spark of freedom. Mara's event plans, Julian's social media buzz, and the showcase loomed ahead, a future I'd built without them. The fight wasn't over, the sale would take weeks, and their resentment would linger, but I was no longer the invisible sister, the one who always gave in. I was Tessa Ramsey, and I was done apologizing.